Hello, and welcome to another Dead by Daylight video. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the Doctor, and let's just jump straight into it. Okay, so the Doctor is a basic killer similar to Trapper, Wraith, Hillbilly. He moves at 115% movement speed, or 4.6 meters a second whenever he isn't using any of his powers. He has a basic attack where he swings his baton at the survivors, and that's the only way he can injure survivors. He has a terror radius of 32 meters, and his height is tall, but he's quite hunched over, so it's more like a medium height. So his power is screaming, pretty much. He makes the survivors scream a lot with his power. So he's got his main power, which is his anti-loop, which makes it easier for him to catch up to survivors and prevent them from, pallet stunning or vaulting windows or whatever. Where he charges it up for about 2 seconds, and then he lets this, think of it as like a tunnel. He lets this tunnel of electricity out, and anyone caught in that range screams, and then they can't vault windows or pallets, get in or out of lockers, or drop pallets, or they just can't really interact with anything for 2.5 seconds. So it's actually one of the best anti-loop powers in the game. It's really consistently good. And when he's charging that, he moves at 77% speed, or 3.08 meters per second, which is not as quick as survivors, but if you time it right and you're good with it, then it won't be losing your distance. He also has another power called Static Blast, which is like his secondary one, where anyone within his terror radius, so he charges it up for about 3 seconds, and then anyone in his terror radius screams, and that also, obviously it reveals their location, so it's a good tool for tracking. And when he's charging that, he moves at 74.75% speed, or 2.99 meters per second, so pretty much 3 meters. So he's still slower than survivors, but only by a little bit. And he also has a passive slowdown, which is in the form of a stats effect, which is called Madness. And you've got Madness Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. So at Tier 1, there's a 33% chance that skill checks will appear randomly on your screen. So they could appear, instead of in the middle, they can appear anywhere on your screen, or they can appear backwards. So think of it as the great skill check part. When you're normally doing generators without madness, think of the great skill check as being flipped. That's what it means by it's backwards. And then, Tier 2, that increases it to 66%. And it also, so most of your skill checks will be backwards or somewhere placed randomly on your screen. And then he also, the survivors also see illusions of the Doctor, so it's just like static, just static versions of the Doctor pretty much. They don't move, they don't do anything. But the Doctor, when within a certain range of these hallucinations, can see the aura, and they always face the survivor, so it can be a good way to track survivors and figure out where they are if you're good with the illusions. And then in Tier 3, that's where it actually becomes passive slowdown, because it makes it so anyone within Madness cannot interact with anything, so they can't heal other survivors, cleanse totems, do generators, pretty much anything that progresses the game. They can't do it. They can still vault windows and pallets and stuff, so they can still loop you, but they can't. They cannot progress the game. And these are also shown with the little icons on the side of your screen, the HUD. You can see when someone's in Tier 3, because it will be lots of little dots around their survivor, so you'll probably see it in the gameplay, I'd imagine fairly soon, or you might have already seen it. It'll be lots of little dots, and it's very, very staticky, pretty much. And that's how you can tell someone's in tier 3. And then when someone's in tier 2, the lines, it'll be like, instead of staticky dots, it's lines that move horizontally. And that is also very bright. And then when someone's in tier 1, it's lines that move vertically, but it's a lot less bright lines, but it's still noticeable. So that's how you can easily tell what survivor's in which state. You also, when they're in tier 3, the survivors run. They're more like hunched over, and they scream occasionally. I think it's like every like 20-ish seconds or so. They scream if they're not snapping out of it, which I'll get onto in a second. So then that's another way you can tell if someone's in tier 3. And then snapping out of it is a effect where they have to like hunch over, and they just have to hit continuous skill checks that pop up every now and again. They're pretty big, they're not difficult to hit, but again, it's just slowdown. It's stuff, like there's something they're doing that isn't progressing the game, which is good for you, because that means they're not on generators. And you can put them into this, I've not even mentioned that, you can put them into madness. So at the beginning of the game they start with 0 madness, and then every time you hit a survivor with a static blast, it gives them 1 stack of madness. So from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. And then every time you hit them with a shock therapy attack, which is the one that stops them from vaulting windows and such, it gives them half a stack. So it'd take 2 of these to go from madness 0 to madness 1, and then 2 of them to go from 1 to 2, and then 2 of them to go from 2 to 3. And you can obviously intertwine these. So you can hit someone with static blast, send them into madness 1, hit someone with 2 shock therapies, send them into madness 2, and then hit them with a static blast again, puts them into madness 3. It doesn't have to be specifically one thing. Yeah, and that's all I can think of right now. Oh, yeah, also. In tier 3, the survivor cannot hear terror radius very well. It always sounds like the terror radius is on the survivor, for the survivor, so they won't be able to tell how far you actually are from them unless they see your aura. But Doctor can't show his aura, so they have to use perks for that or something. And yeah, let's move right onto the strategies. Okay, so the Doctor is less of a strategic kind of killer, I'd say, as far as I know. But what you can do just to improve your results a bit is, at the beginning of the game, if you run to an area you think the survivors spawn to, try and predict the way they're going to go. Try and predict if they're going to get on the generator next to them, or if they're going to run off maybe to more to the centre of the map. You've got to try and predict that, and then you can use a static blast, and you can usually find at least two survivors straight away, which is really good because that means you get a really early start in the game, which is better than looking around for 2 minutes and then bang, a generator's done. You're not even seeing a survivor yet. There's also the matter of survivors knowing how to play against him. If survivors know to play against him, I'm sure you would have seen it in this. I'm sure you'll see it in this gameplay here. The bots know how to play against the Doctor, obviously, because the bots know what the Doctor is. So they try and move out of the way of the static blast, but because they're only bots, they're not very smart. But what players will do, if they know how to play against the Doctor, they'll know, okay, so if I get hit by this not static blast, shock therapy, I mean, if I get hit by this shock therapy, it prevents me from throwing down the pallet, which means I'm going to have to dodge it and move on to the next loop, or I'm going to have to dodge it and I'm just going to have to keep running around this loop and hope that he doesn't get a good shock. So what you can do as a good Doctor is try and funnel the survivors, try and lead them into thinking, do it like the last possible moment you can. and lead them into thinking, okay, he's not going to shock here, so I'll be able to freely drop the pallet, and then do it the last second where they're already funneled into an area and they can't dodge the shock therapy, and then they get stunned and they can't do anything for 2.5 seconds. You can also, it's less of a play style, but more to help progress madness, I suppose. If you know the survivors on a generator and they're trying to finish it in your face, just shock them. They can't do the generator if they're shocked. They don't have to be in tier 3, it's just use shock therapy on them, and then they can't do the generator for 2.5 seconds, and they have to give up on doing that generator. Because your shock therapy range is longer than your lunge, and it can prevent multiple people from doing a generator. It also gives multiple people madness at the same time, so it helps progress madness further, because each shock therapy, if you're in a chase, you're only going to be getting one person with the shock therapy, which means you're only progressing half a point, but then you're technically progressing your full point. So try and get as much people as you can in your abilities, is what I'm saying. Remember that your your static blast is tied to your terror radius. So if you get a terror radius that's really big, your static blast range is going to be really big. If you have a terror radius that's really small, it's going to be really small. If you go undetectable, then it's going to do nothing because you've got no terror radius. So keep that in mind when you're trying to synergize perks with Doctor. Perks like Dark Devotion, where when you hit the obsession, it transfers your terror radius to them. That's a fun perk on him because it still your terror radius. It effectively moves your terror radius onto the survivor, which means you static blast. Not only will that survivor always get caught in the range, that survivor will always get caught by the static blast, but everyone else will. Everyone within 32 meters of that survivor will also get caught. It does, however, there's a small little thing in the static blast. If you're starting out new, survivors won't know this, but the static blast comes out of the Doctor, so really skilled, really attentive survivors that are in a fairly open spot but haven't seen the Doctor yet will be able to tell which direction he's coming from. But that's such a small thing that I probably play 100 games of Doctor and I doubt that had happened to me more than 3 times. I really don't think that's a very commonly known thing. And like I said before, he's not a very strategic killer. He's quite a simple, straightforward killer. There isn't too much you can really do with him, and I don't really know the Doctor that well either. I don't play much as him. I don't play much against him. So let's just move on to the good perk builds and add-ons. Okay, not gonna lie, this is my 3rd take doing this because I keep forgetting to unmute myself. So I'm gonna speedrun this. Right, 3, 2, 1, go. Overcharge. You kick a generator. You get a difficult, when survivors interact with it, they get a difficult skill check. They lose 4% progress extra if they miss that skill check, and then it makes generators go from regressing slower than normal to quicker than normal over 30 seconds. Boom, overcharge. Whispers. The perk lights up whenever a survivor stood within 32 meters of you. You never waste your static blast as long as your terror radius stays the normal amount. Boom, there's Whispers. Sloppy Butcher. You hit a survivor, they get hemorrhage and mangled. Hemorrhage makes them bleed more, and then they lose healing progression. Mangled makes them heal 25% slower. Hex, no one escapes death. When all the generators are powered, this turns any dull totem on the map to a hex totem. So survivors get exposed for the rest of the trial. Your movement speed is increased by 4% as long as the hex is active. When the hex is revealed, when the hex effect is revealed, The totem's aura is shown to survivors at a range of 4 meters, and then it increases to 24 meters over 30 seconds. You got Discipline, decreases the detonation delay of shock therapy by 20%. And then when you're in a chase, when it was a survivor in Madness 2, they get a fake terror radius and a fake red stain as if you were stood right next to them. This effect lasts for 6 seconds until the chase ends. Madness 3, the red stain and terror radius are constantly active, and you also see the red stain. High Stimulus Electrode increases the range of shock therapy by 4 meters. Just a good add-on. Oh yeah, I'm not doing offerings because Doctor, he's not a very map reliant character. Corrupt Intervention. The free generators furthest from you are blocked for 2 minutes at the start of the trial, or until you down a survivor. Scourge Hook Pain Resonance. 4 random hooks at the start of the trial get turned to white Scourge Hooks. Whenever you hook a unique survivor on that hook, on a Scourge Hook, the generator with the most progress explodes, starts to regress, and loses 20% of its progress. Grim Embrace. When you move 16 meters away from a hook, all generators are blocked for 10 seconds. When you hit 4 tokens, so you hook all survivors, you move 16 meters away. Instead of 10 seconds, they get blocked for 40 seconds, and the Obsession's aura is revealed to you for 6 seconds. Merciless Storm. Whenever a generator reaches 90% progress, survivors working on it are faced with continuous skill checks. So imagine the skill check circle, but every time you hit a skill check, a new one will appear constantly for the last 10% of the generator. And then if they miss or stop preparing, the generator gets blocked for 20 seconds. Double Calm. The purple one increases the terror radius by 8 meters while Static Blast is ready, so when you can Static Blast, your terror radius goes from 32 meters to 40. And then when it isn't ready, it goes from 32 meters to 24. And then the yellow one does the same, but with 6 meter difference instead. And then both of them do the same thing with the Affliction of Madness. With Madness 2, survivors intermittently hear a distant terror radius, and then in Madness 3, they constantly hear a distant terror radius. Discordance. Whenever 2 or more survivors are working on a generator, the range limit doesn't matter. Don't read that and think that makes it worse. It doesn't. A generator gets highlighted in yellow instead of red. And then whenever survivors stop, whenever there's only 1 survivor on the generator or no survivors on it, the aura remains for 4 seconds and then it goes away. And then it turns red again. Rapid Brutality. You hit a survivor with basic attack, you get 5% haste for 10 seconds, but you can't get Bloodlust, which should be fine because you should be shocking a lot, which means you won't be getting Bloodlust anyway. Surge. Whenever you down a survivor, within 32 meters of you, all generators explode and start to regress. Generators affected by Surge lose 8% of their progress. Hex Ruin. Whenever a survivor is not working on a generator, it regresses at the normal speed. These are not good add-ons. Iridescent Queen. Survivors get a small little static charge under their feet whenever you hit them with shock therapy or static blast. Whenever another survivor steps within 4 meters of them, they get shocked with shock therapy, pretty much without you having to do anything. Iridescent King. Causes survivors to hear a distant illusory terror radius, so it gives you the effect of Calm and Discipline, which I'm not going to go over again. It also gives you the effects of Order and Restraint, which I will go over. So Order makes it so broken pallets appear as fake pallets, so like illusionary ones that persist until approached by survivors, and a new pallet is generated every 20 seconds. And then Restraint increases the duration of illusionary doctors by 6 seconds, and the doctor sees illusionary red stain as well as illusionary doctors and illusionary pallets. Right, 2 bad add-ons. You got the interview tape and the scrap tape. The interview tape turns your little tunnel of shock therapy into a cone, not a cone, that's a lie, into a beam that is 24 meters long and 2 meter wide. So it's not good. Don't use it. The range is not worth such a small width. The width makes it redeemable, and then reducing the width is just no. Don't bother. I'll put a little clip up to show you how bad it is. And then you get the scrapped tape, which changes the shape of shock therapy rather. Do a ring that has a range of 8 meters, a radius of 4 meters, and a thickness of 1 meter. Again, I'll throw up a clip. I'm not a mathematical genius. I don't even understand what this means. I just know what it looks like because I did it about 10 minutes ago. You also want to avoid the Maple Knight because what's the point? You're gonna see it anyway. You can use it for your first few games, but when you get the hang of it, don't bother. And don't bother using these ones either, because why use them when you can use these ones? So yeah, that was the video. I hope you didn't mind me speedrunning. I've literally been doing this one take for like half an hour because I keep doing stupid stuff. But yeah, I hope you learned something new. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one. So yeah, peace out.